In this video, I'm going to give you a bit of a challenge to use the different clone stamp and healing brush tools, as well as introduce quickly the Redeye tool. I have two files open. The first one is Redeye Girl Practice, and the other one is just Redeye Girl. So starting with Redeye Girl Practice, the Redeye tool is underneath the healing tools. You can get to it by hitting the letter J. Really simple tool. In our options bar, we only have two options available. We have pupil size and darken amount. By default, they should both be set to 50%, but I will say that I usually start with my darken amount at about 100%. Usually, pupils are one of the darkest things in a photograph, so I try to make those as dark as I can to keep it looking like that person has a vision problem or cataract, something like that. The other thing is I don't like to work onto the original image, so I will copy my background layer by dragging it down to that plus sign. Now I have a copy of that layer. I could also hit Command J, that would have done the same thing. And with my darken amount at 100, my pupil size, I usually start with it about 50. You could always kind of move it from there, trial and error. If I click once in the red of the eye, click once in the red of the eye on the other side, you can see they are now black pupils. If I hide this, there's the difference. And I could maybe do a little bit more. I could maybe make the pupil size a tiny bit higher. You don't want to go all the way up, but something like 60 maybe. And you could experiment on your own and see what it does when you put it at 0 or 1. Look at one, it's at 100. But that looks about right to me. So again, if I zoom out a little, that's what she was before. That's what she is now. This isn't even that needed anymore, as most cameras have red eye reduction in them. But occasionally you run into a group photo or, something where you do need this. Let's go to the next file, Redeye Girl. Same thing. Start with 160. I'm just going to take my image, Command J, make a duplicate layer. Click once here. You can see it's a little gray there. I might want to go a little higher with pupil size in that particular case. It's already at 100% darken. But all right. So that's about as dark as it seems like I'm going to get for at least that eye. This eye seems fine. This one, maybe I can try to see at 100%. What does that do? It just makes it look a little almost infected. I don't really want that. Okay, so we have her eyes done. The problem that I have with this photo is not that. It's this thing right here. Now, I've asked students over the years, and I've got many different responses. The most common ones to me asking, what is this on her head? What is she wearing? Is people tend to say a graduation cap, which I can see, or a birthday hat, which I can also see. I don't agree with either, though. I'd like to think that this is some sort of mistake in the photo. And the only reason I'm really saying that is because I want, as a challenge to you for trying to use these tools, to see out of the healing brush tools, the spot healing tool, the patch tool, etc., as well as the clone stamp, try your best to remove the red from around this portion of this girl's head. Now, I will tell you a few things to be cautious of. Echoing when you use the clone stamp, as in you get this kind of repeated texture, it almost gives her scales. Try not to give her scales. Resist the temptation to give her bangs to cover this. That's not the answer. And number 3 is don't give her Frankenstein head. And what I mean by that is don't make this feel like it goes up indefinitely forever. Right? So what I want you to do is, again, take a minute, pause this video, try to do what you can with this. I will then show you how I would do it. But again, I would like you to give it an attempt on your own. Try not to cheat. Do your best, and we'll take it from there. So pause the video now. Did you pause it? I hope you paused it. All right, so now let's assume that you gave this your best try. You avoided giving her scales. You avoided giving her the Frankenstein head. And let's talk about what I would do if I were doing this. First thing I would do is I would use my clone stamp to start. It's going to help me get areas that I definitely want to make consistent in place. So, for example, the most challenging thing from my perspective right now is going to be the hairline. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to hold down Option. I'm going to make my cursor smaller than the space in here because I like that angle that it's on. I want to keep that angle going. I'm going to hold Option. I'm going to go right to that edge so I have half hair and half skin. I'm going to click and maybe paint a little bit just to give myself some clearance. But it's not a big area that I sampled, so I can't go too far. All right. I'm going to let go back, sample again, go to that same general area. And there you go. That gives me that line continued. Now I just kind of, when I let go, slipped a little bit. So let me just repair that. Ooh. Definitely did a little bit of damage on that. I could undo that. I could edit this video, but I want you guys to see what happens if I did that for real. It's not the biggest deal. All right, now fill in the hair a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of take notice of the texture and the way that the hair is going, and I'm going to sort of move perpendicular to that texture. So that's fine, except for you start to notice, hopefully you can start to notice that echo that I was talking about, that repeated pattern. This piece of hair that has those two, like forked into two highlight, this one has the same, this one has the same. It's really, really consistent looking, and people usually don't have that. So I'm going to have to fix that, but I'll come back to it in a minute. The next thing is her head is round and the lighting changes. It's darker here than it is here, and then it gets a little darker. So it's dark, then light, then kind of medium. I don't want to use skin samples from here to fix here because those are very, very different colors. Even though that's all her skin color, it's not the same color. So what I do for something like this is I'll try to stay in the same area side to side, and I'll just work my way up to down. So I'm going to click here, sample, and now I'm going to just paint across her head this way. And I could always grab a little bit of hair here and just put it in that area. All right, now I'm going to do another stripe back. And I didn't like the way that's going to look, so I'm going to undo that. I'll sample back here again. Swipe across. Swipe. And having that red cursor on, I don't usually have on. I have that on so you guys can see my cursor. It's very distracting when I do this, though. Hopefully you appreciate it. All right, what I have now is this is that scale pattern I was talking about. You can see this echo or this repeating pattern. So if I zoom out, she's got this very, very weird pattern. She's got some weird stuff going on in the hair. There's a lot of weird things here. This is where those other tools come in. This is what they're good for. Now, if you remember the other video, the healing brush I said is a great tool. That's a very large cursor right now. That's why it's doing that. But you don't have control over where it goes. So now I'm going to make sure I do control where it goes. That's the advantage of the healing tool over the spot. And I'm also going to, the other downside is it matches color. Well, now all the color is okay. If I just tried to do this over the original, and I can show you what would happen. If I grabbed, I'm just going to unlock this guy, just so you guys can see. If I used my spot, or if I used my healing tool on this, it's going to try to match that red color. I'm getting this like red glow, and I don't want that. So instead, I matched all the right colors, and now within certain areas, I'm going to lower my hardness. I'm going to just paint into these areas until those echoey lines begin to disappear. And I'm going to sample from similar colored areas. So if you notice, those couple wisps of hair are gone, and I'm just smoothing this whole thing out. Here, there's some of these lines, and I'm just kind of painting in and just, again, smoothing out those colors and those kind of repeated scales, for lack of a better term. All right, now do the same thing to the hair. I might grab a little bit of this and put it over that area, and grab a little bit of this and put it over this area. Now see that again, I have this repeating part that I don't like. So I have to just kind of layer pieces over each other until I get something that looks kind of new. All right, that doesn't look 100%, but it looks a lot better. And I'm not going to do mine as detailed because I don't want to bore you guys to death with going overboard, but that's getting there. The problem is I do have a bit of what I like to refer to as the Frankenstein head. And the problem is that it looks like the head goes up indefinitely, when in reality, the way the hair comes over here, it should probably be there too. So I need an angle where the hair is usable. And this is where I get to pull in the things from the videos of the previous series, the introduction videos, and using different layers and doing layer adjustments, things like that. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab my lasso tool, and I'm just going to put a quick selection around this chunk of hair here. So it's hair and skin, and that's what I want about this, is it's got a line of hair and skin showing behind it. I'm going to Command J, copy that area. Whoops, didn't mean to hit U on that as well. Command J alone gives me that area on its own layer. Command T lets me grab it and transform it. Right, I can swing it around. I'm going to right click. I'm going to flip it over because I need it facing the other direction. I could do something like this and put that hair in that place, and it kind of looks like that's what the hair would be doing in that general area, minus the skin that's there. I could distort this if I wanted, get it to look kind of the way I need it to. And that looks about right. So what do I do now? Well, I have a few things I can play with. I'm going to grab my eraser tool, lower the hardness, and just erase the edge. And for those of you that know Photoshop a little bit better and say, why am I not masking? Yes, I should be using masks for this. I'm not in the case of this example, just because this is still new. All right, and now I'm going to do some adjustments. First, let's do a levels adjustment. It's just too light. And that gets it about the darkness of her hair. It's a little too red, though. So I can pull in the highlights a little bit. So the tone is good, but the color is a little too bright. It's a little too red. So Command U, hue saturation, and just lower my saturation on that guy until it's significantly less red. I could also go back, grab my eraser again, pull my hardness back up, and just give a little bit more of a clean edge to this if I wanted to. And now, maybe not under crazy close detail, but for the most part, that should be okay. And again, I can transform it and tweak it. So this is one way that I can use an area that I saw and touch up an area that needed it, right? So I was able to kind of cannibalize and steal this from here and distort it and tweak it and make it look the way I wanted it to. All right. So if you can do that, you can start to pull images together using just pieces of that same image. So give that a shot, and let's see how close you can get to making her look not quite as scary as she did when this started. All right. I think it's a big improvement. Give that a shot.